Get ready to have everything you thought you knew about global poverty completely shattered. We've been fed a very simple story for decades, right? Poor countries are poor because they just don't have enough money. We're told they need more aid, more charity, more cash injections. But what if that entire narrative is fundamentally wrong? Welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're tearing down the myths and looking at the hard, uncomfortable data. So, is Africa lacking money? The answer is a resounding, face-slapping no. It is not a lack of funds keeping developing nations poor. The money actually exists. The real tragedy here? It's being fed into a systemic cancer of broken capital allocation. The wealth is there, but it's trapped, it's misdirected. It's going to the entirely wrong places, literally starving the very businesses that could actually create prosperity. Section 1. Why poor countries are poor. Section 2. The absurd reality. Let's ground this. Imagine you're a mango farmer in northern Ghana. Step 1, you grow a fantastic crop. Step 2, you load up a truck to sell them in the capital. But then you hit step 3, endless, corrupt police checkpoints. At every single stop, you have to pay a bribe. Just a few bucks here and there, sure, but by the time you reach step 4, your entire profit margin is completely wiped out. Small-scale corruption makes simple transport entirely unprofitable. The money isn't missing. It's literally being stolen right off the road. And this local corruption skills up into a massive global reputation cost. Just listen to this brutal quote from a multinational executive operating in the region. They said, "Nobody wants to buy something made in Africa because quality is perceived to be poor." Wow. Because basic systems fail, an entire continent gets branded as low quality. It's an absolutely devastating penalty to pay. Section 3. The cruel data. When you look at average nominal interest rates across different countries, the variance is staggering. You'll see massive, erratic spikes popping up in African nations. The money-making efficiency there is just completely chaotic compared to developed nations. Think about it. If a financial system is healthy, borrowing rates should be pretty stable and consistent. But here, it's absolute turbulence. The really crucial point, though, is the insane spread of those interest rates. In European countries like Germany or Spain, the borrowing rates sit in these tight, stable, single-digit ranges. But then you look at businesses in places like Zambia or Ghana, and they are dealing with massive spreads. We're talking about borrowing at up to 30, 40, or even 50% interest. Imagine trying to run a bakery or get a tech startup off the ground when your loan costs you 50% a year. You just can't. Let's break down the cruel math here. The maximum borrowing rate in Ghana, 33.3%. Zambia, 50%. Compare that to Germany at 17% or Spain at 12%. These insane spreads mean the local markets aren't pricing risk fairly at all. They are fundamentally broken. The capital is just completely misallocated. Section 4. The fatal barrier. So what's the actual root of the problem? You might think it's weak infrastructure. Actually, that only accounts for 20% of business obstacles. Is it government red tape? Nope, just 10%. The real killer? Over 60% of firms are screaming that their biggest chokehold is simply access to finance. They literally cannot get the money they need to survive. And this pattern holds up everywhere you look. Whether you're surveying firms in Ghana or Kenya, the data is crystal clear. A lack of financial access absolutely dwarfs poor infrastructure or red tape. It's the ultimate business killer. If you can't get capital, you can't buy machines, you can't hire workers, and you simply cannot grow. Now, prepare yourself for a statistical gut punch, 45%. According to the research, a firm that reports having the worst access to finance needs a 45% higher return on their capital just to survive, compared to a firm with no finance obstacles. Think about how incredibly unfair that is. You have to be almost 1.5 times more efficient just to keep the lights on, simply because the banks won't even talk to you. Section 5. The property rights card. Here is the vicious cycle that drives all of this. Step 1. People don't have secure, formal property rights. Step 2. Without legal ownership, they can't use their land as collateral. Step 3. No collateral means they are completely shut out of the formal banking system, which leads to Step 4. They are forced into the shadows, taking informal, black market loans at crushing 50% interest rates. The end result? Guaranteed poverty. And honestly, here is the absolute absurdity of the whole situation. Foreign multinational firms totally thrive in these exact same countries. Why? Because they bypass the local mess. They secure 47-year land leases directly from the government in protected free trade zones. They get the property rights. Meanwhile, the local entrepreneurs are completely locked out of their own financial systems. It's literally an economy actively working against its own citizens. Section 6. Limits and implications. Now, let's give credit where it's due and criticism where it's earned. This study is absolutely brilliant because it finally proved massive capital misallocation using objective, firm-level data rather than just guessing. But it does have flaws. It relies heavily on subjective complaints from business owners who, let's be honest, always like to complain, and it largely ignores the complex reality of informal black markets where a huge chunk of the actual economy happens. But even with those blind spots, the core truth here remains undeniable. I want to leave you with a final, provocative thought. If your country's property rights vanished tomorrow, if you suddenly couldn't prove you owned your home or your business, how long until your economy looks exactly like this? Prosperity isn't just about having cash. It balances entirely on the fragile, invisible edge of property rights and the legal system. Take that away, and the whole shebang collapses. Think about that the next time you hear someone say poor countries just need another donation. Thanks for joining me on this explainer, and I'll catch you next time.